and all. I'm very happy to see the house full. So, welcome to the leadership series hosted by the School of Management at Airline University, Gurugram. As the director of the School of Management, Airline University, Gurugram, I take immense pleasure and I'm very honored to extend a warm welcome to all of you gathered here today, especially our esteemed leader and the guest speaker, Mr. Vinod Kannan, the Chief Executive Officer of Vistara Airlines. And to our distinguished Vice Chancellor Ma'am, Professor Padmakali Banerjee, Vice President Mr. Sanjay Subarna, my colleagues Dr. Krishnan, Ms. Raikwar, Mr. Chakrabarti, and Deans of Schools of Airline University, Gurugram, who grace this occasion with their presence. The leadership series at Airline University stands as a testament to our commitment to fostering a deep understanding of leadership principles and industry insights among our students and faculty. Each month, we bring together leaders from industry who share their invaluable experiences and perspectives that shape the future of business and management. The leadership series plays a vital role in helping our students understand a high-level practitioner's perspective, and it adds immense value in terms of their corporate readiness. The series encourages students to aim higher, draw inspiration, and pursue excellence. More importantly, the underlying principle of leadership series is to create an opportunity for the students to learn leadership and management lessons that are drawn from experience and expertise of the leader. Today's session of leadership series promises to be exceptionally enlightening as we delve into the strategic initiatives and leadership philosophies that have propelled Vistara Airlines to the forefront of the aviation industry. Mr. Vinod Kannan, your leadership exemplifies resilience, innovation, and strategic vision, qualities that resonate deeply with our commitment to excellence in education and leadership development at Airline University, Gurugram. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of our esteemed Vice Chancellor Ma'am and Vice President, whose guidance and vision are instrumental in shaping our academic endeavors and institutional growth. Your presence here today underscores the significance of bridging the academia and industry, creating a fertile ground for collaboration and learning. Students, I encourage you to seize this opportunity to engage with Mr. Kannan and glean insights that will inspire your academic pursuits and future career aspirations. The knowledge shared today will not only enrich your understanding of leadership, but also empower you to navigate the complexities of the business world with confidence and competence. In conclusion, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Vinod Kannan for gracing us with his presence and sharing his wealth of experience with us. Your presence here today enriches our leadership series and reaffirms our commitment to nurturing future leaders who will drive positive change in their respective fields. Thank you all for being here, and I look forward to an insightful and inspiring session ahead. Now I would like to call upon our Honorable Vice Chancellor Ma'am, Professor Padmakali Banerjee, for the welcome address.
A very good morning to one and all. I think I want to hear something more louder. Round of applause. The vibrations go up on the sky. I'm extremely, I think, grateful for Mr. Anupam Mehta to have invited you. And I think we are really honored to have you here with us. And you know, today is a very significant day, world over. Today is the World Youth Skills Day. So I think 15th of July, almost nearly a decade ago, it was by the United Nations. We are celebrating across student empowerment, employability, and sustainable development. So I think what better than having a CEO who is actually has a mission. He is a man with a mission, has had a very beautiful career. I was going through, I'm sure all of you have gone through his profile. I've seen the kind of grit, the dedication, the passion he has led, not just Vistara, in his entire journey. So I think we are all, please, actually I must tell you, we are ready for the flight that we are going to have in the next 1 hour with him. So all the best to each one of you. I am personally very delighted and excited to listen from you, Mr. Vinod Kannan. So, and one of the things that I really want to say that to you, my dear students, because every single day that you listen to a leader, it creates an imprint in your mind. We call it, mind mapping. So one of the things that I want you to do is to really listen carefully, because that is what is really causing a lot of disruption, because our attention is going down. So I'm really excited, waiting to listen from you. And with this, I must tell you that each of us who are here today, we are going to see a lot of lessons learned in listening from you directly about not just the aviation, but also how a leader is groomed in the life, what kind of sacrifices you make, what kind of goal setting there is to become a leader. And to all of you, dear future leaders, please treat it as a mindful meditation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Banerjee. I think students are having a great time since the beginning of the month. I'm sure you all enjoyed your orientation program, and today is the first day of your semester officially when the classes begin. And look at whom we have for you. So I'm quite excited about it. So before we hand over the stage to Mr. Vinod Kannan, let me talk about his background. So Mr. Vinod Kannan is the Chief Executive Officer of Vistara, as many of us, most of us know, is India's finest full-service carrier and a joint venture of Tata Sons and Singapore Airlines. Mr. Kannan has spent over 2 decades working with Singapore Airlines and has held several senior positions in the airline's head office in Singapore as well as overseas. Mr. Kannan joined Vistara in June 2019 as the Chief Strategy Officer and took over as the Chief Commercial Officer in January 2020 with the responsibility for developing, executing and sustaining Vistara's corporate strategy and ensuring the airline's commercial success. He spearheaded a wide portfolio of Vistara's strategic and commercial functions, including but not limited to pricing and revenue management, network planning, sales and distribution, partnerships and alliances, product development, in-flight services, marketing, branding and customer experience. Mr. Kannan has played a pivotal role in launching Vistara's international operation, expanding its domestic network, fleet size and driving airlines' steady growth during the pandemic. Prior to joining Vistara, Mr. Kannan served as the Chief Commercial Officer of Scoot, Singapore Airlines' low-cost subsidiary in Singapore, where he was instrumental in launching long-haul operations mainly to cities in Europe. He had also served Singapore Airlines as Vice President Network Planning and as Singapore Airlines General Manager for Indonesia. Mr. Kannan handled Singapore Airlines marketing and sales departments as well in the Middle East and Italy. He holds a bachelor's degree in engineering from Nanyang Technological University and a master's degree in business administration from National University of Singapore and University of California, Los Angeles. In his free time, Mr. Kannan enjoys reading and playing squash and tennis. So with this, I think we are all excited. The moment has arrived. I would like to request Mr. Vinod Kannan to address our students and talk about your journey and the achievements. Over to you, Mr. Kannan.
Thank you so much. A very good morning. Good morning. It's firstly great to be back in the university campus. I was just telling some of your professors that the last time I was in the university campus was about 7-8 years ago when I did my MBA. But it's just great to be surrounded by youth, by people, such a lush, great campus. And it's wonderful to be doing this, I believe, for many of you on the first day of your cohort. So no pressure on me. It's probably going to be a session. I want to keep this as open as possible. As much as what has been shared, and you've probably seen what my various roles in LinkedIn and various social media channels. I'd like to spend a few minutes to talk a bit about myself, and I'll talk a little bit about Vistara, which is something that we are all very proud of as staff of Vistara, and then a little bit about my journey and what what kind of, in my limited wisdom, what I can take away from it. So about myself, I'm originally from Bangalore. I'm a single son to my parents. My parents still live in Bangalore. I studied in Bangalore till my 12th, and then I left to Singapore on a scholarship. It was the first flight I ever took in my life, and it was to Singapore. And I'll come back to this, but when I landed in Singapore, my bags were lost. And that started my aviation journey. But anyway, I studied in Singapore. I did my undergraduate in electronic and electrical engineering there. And then I had an opportunity actually to do a master's with MIT in Boston and NUS, the National University of Singapore. Also engineering, high performance computing. But after doing those 5 years, I decided I want to work with people and not with computers. And nothing against computers, it's just me. So then I decided to move to something totally different. I joined Singapore Airlines. One of the good things with Singapore Airlines for me, which attracted me, of course, is based in Singapore. I love travel, so I could travel a lot around the region. And then there was also a program of moving to different divisions or departments. You don't need to keep doing the same job over and over. So then I took that opportunity. I joined them, and here I am, almost 25 years later. That's as far as my personal life is concerned. I'm based here, of course, in Gurgaon. My wife and I have 2 kids who are pretty young and keep me busy. And of course, as you, in today's day and age, it's very, very, for me, one of the, I wouldn't say regrets, but one of the things I want more is time with family, because that keeps getting lesser and lesser as you move up the career ladder. So that's about me. I'd like to talk a little bit about Vistara. I hope many of you know what Vistara is about. We are, and thank you ma'am, we are the best airline in India. We've won numerous awards. We've been recognized as being very customer centric. We are about 10 years old. We started off in 2015. It's a joint venture between the Tatas, which is a household name, and Singapore Airlines. And since the time we started, I think we were very, very clear and careful that the only thing that is going to guide us is customer centricity. So everything we do is about the customer. Everything we do is geared towards how to make the customer's life easier. And everything we do and every decision we take is keeping the customer in mind. So for the airline business, it is not an easy business. If you've been studying case studies, business cases have been written on how you shouldn't start an airline more than how you should do work an airline. And the reason is very simple. The airline business is extremely asset heavy. We have to buy planes, which costs quite a lot. And in India's context, there are even more challenges, because it's definitely good that it's a growing economy. There's a lot of demand, but one of the challenges in India's context is that while we collect our revenues in rupees, because we pay for our tickets in Indian rupees, a lot of our cost items are in dollars, whether it's planes, whether it's fuel, whether it's maintenance. And of course, you all know that the Indian rupee versus the dollar, it's not exactly a very stable currency. It keeps depreciating. So when you're collecting money in rupees and paying in dollars, you're already 200 meters behind the start line. So an airline in India is always a tough kind of challenge. But, and I know as business, as business students, you'll appreciate that it's always going to be very tough to bridge that gap between revenue and cost. And that's something that we've been trying to do. But what helps us as far as Vistara is concerned is, as I said, customer centricity, and the fact that we have we never compromise on safety and operational excellence. Our process and procedures are from Singapore Airlines, which is arguably the best airline in the world. And therefore, we've reached a stage where we've been able to monetize some of that to a certain extent on the fares. So from Vistara's perspective, a new chapter is going to start as well. As some of you may be aware, we are actually merging with Air India, which is the other airline in the Tata's stable. And that's going to happen through the year, and hopefully by next year will be one big entity. So that's about Vistara. And my journey and joining Vistara was about 5 years ago. And I've been amazed at the resilience, the great work we've done, and especially during the time of COVID. COVID was tough for everyone, but especially for airlines, it was really a death blow because you could not fly. Many of you might remember we had grounded our fleet. In fact, all airlines had grounded fleets, and then demand kept coming back very slowly. But we were resilient. We made sure that we were prepared for it, and we emerged out of it stronger. So that's my Vistara story in a nutshell. The last point I'd like to perhaps talk about before I hear from you and open it up, because I'd like to have a dialogue rather than a monologue, is what I've learned in life. So 25 years, I look slightly older perhaps, but 25 years of my corporate journey. A few things that I'd like to share. First and foremost, I think as a person who's been, well, I haven't worked across multiple verticals, but I've worked across multiple geographies. I worked across multiple areas of any business. One of the most important things that I take back is patience. At the end of the day, it is important that we recognize that whatever we do, good things will happen, good things take time. We are all, when I was your age, I was waiting to take over the world, and that's the beauty of youth. When you're young, you feel you can change the world, you feel that you can make a big difference, and you can. But many of these changes are incremental. So don't get disheartened if you don't, think that the world has changed very significantly. The second point is to give you a grounded and to give you a well-rounded exposure is education, which is why you're all here. And education is not just what's written in the books, it's what's outside the books. It's sessions such as these. And what I remember most from my education experience, and I've done it 3 times, undergraduate, postgraduate, and then business, is interactions like these. Because very honestly, the professors, the corporate leaders, the external speakers who come and speak and share knowledge is what actually leaves an impact. I'm not saying anything against the books and the professors here. I'm sure that's par for the course. That's very important. But these kind of things actually apply. It teaches you how to apply what you learn into the real world. So it's very important that you use such opportunities. Make sure that you attend these sessions and probe your lecturers and professors on how the real world is. Because very honestly, academics is important, but that layer of having experience and worldly knowledge is what makes a great leader. And the last point I'd like to share and leave you with, no matter where you are, and I tell this to my team as well, I believe in the strategy of 3H. The first H stands for humble. Be humble, be willing, open to learn, and understand that there are things beyond you, and be open and receptive to learn, and know that you are not the biggest thing on earth. That's humble. Be hungry for knowledge, hungry for experience, hungry for opportunity, because I can tell you, as much as we say working hard is important, in my life being in the right place and the right time is also important. And when you get an opportunity, you grab it with open hands and you try and make the best of it. So be humble, be hungry, and probably the most important, be honest. Honest to yourself, honest to everyone around you, and honest to what exactly you want to do in life. That's what has been guiding me in my life, and that's what I tell all my people and my staff and my team. To a limited extent, I hope it rubs off on people. But at the end of the day, it's your life, and what I want to leave you with is that it's a huge canvas out there for you to paint. There will be opportunities, there will be immense challenges, but at the end of the day, what's life without challenges? Because if you don't fight and toil hard against these questions, these challenges, these issues, life is boring, and I can tell you that. Thank you so much. Well, especially these days, turbulence is kind of something that all airlines are talking about. I probably think I'm better than most, but yes, when there are times when you feel those jitters, I do hold on to the seats quite much stronger than the others. But that's what life is, right? You try and make sure that you do the best you can, and please fasten your seatbelts even when you're seated. I try to say we are more honest than the others, but yes, it is not. It is something that we have to work on. There's reasons for it because sometimes you really don't have an understanding of how long the delay is. We expect that things get better much faster, but sometimes they don't. But yes, there are times when you have to do. You probably what I've learned is that it's better for you to be open and to tell people, look, we are going to be late by 45 minutes, rather than giving people a creeping timeline. This was actually a study done by the UK Underground, the tube system. The single biggest impact or the single biggest positive to customer experience in the UK Underground is not more trains, it's not more frequency, it's not better trains. It's just a board there which tells you that your train is coming in 9 minutes. People will wait for 10 minutes for a train that they know is coming, but they will be very frustrated not knowing when the train is coming. So I think it's something we have to learn.
Okay, before I open it, one last thing. The Air India merger is coming soon. How difficult or how easy is it going to make things for the consumer? Because like you said, consumer centricity is something we focus on.
It's an emotional thing for all of us. I think what I would say is that it is once again a much bigger network. You get to be part of Star Alliance, which is something very big. There's going to be more planes coming in. In fact, Air India has ordered about 470 planes. So you put all this in perspective. Maybe today there is still a little bit of question mark in people's mind. But I can tell you with utmost confidence that 2 years down the road, there's going to be so many more options. There's going to be so many more flights from different parts of the country that it is going to be a very positive impact.
And no one's going to lose their luggage like you lost your luggage when you traveled first to Singapore.
I hope not. I think, again, sorry, I had to come back to that. While I lost my luggage, and while for me it was my first international trip and I didn't know what the hell was happening, sorry, pardon my friend, but I think what was very good was the way in which the airline communicated. They said, look, there's something that's happened, the luggage is gone. In fact, they had gone to Tokyo for some reason. And they said, I'm going to give you $200, go buy your basic essentials, we'll get back to you by tomorrow on the status. And within 3 days, I think the luggage is back. So things happen, we screw up, things happen all the time, but it's how you manage it that makes a difference.
So communication is key. Okay, so I'm going to open it up for all the students. Raise your hand if you have a question and we'll get a mic to you. Okay, excellent. We'll start with the lady here, 4th, 5th row, if I'm counting right. Can we get a mic to her? The lady with the spectacles, black jacket, please. Why don't you stand up, give us your name and ask your question.
Hi sir, good morning. A very warm welcome to you. Your personality and skills do encourage us and our thoughts, particularly the edge you have mentioned. So my first question to you is,
Just hold it closer to you, yeah. So her question was, what's your year-on-year revenue for
revenue growth rate
revenue growth rate for Vistara, and what's your projected
for the next 5 years?
for the next 5?
So before I answer your question, I just have one request. Please call me Vinod. Don't call me sir. I feel much older sitting with you guys. So you can call me Vinod, I'm fine. To your question on what the revenue growth has been, so let me give you, let me answer it this way. You know what is CAGR, right? Compounded annual growth rate. So the CAGR for the last 5 years for us has been about 35%. So because we've been taking delivery of aircraft, we've been growing quite a bit. And that's how it's been over year on year. In fact, this financial year 24 versus 23, we grew almost 50+% in terms of revenue. Thank you. And the going forward, looking forward, well, for good or bad, given that we are in the middle of this merger, we will not be as Vistara as an independent entity come next financial year. So we will merge with Air India, and I'm sure that the projections for Air India are actually equally aggressive. So I can't give you a going forward look, but at least I can tell you that the CAGR is 35% over the last 5 years.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So does better revenue mean sort of it's passed on to the consumers and our ticket prices go down?
Not necessarily. We are in a business school, right? Firstly, better revenue is very good because the single biggest thing that motivates an organization or a company is growth. I mean, you can do everything you want, but the positive story and growing is what makes people look forward, because then there's career progression, there's advancement, people are happy, people feel there's more things happening. But on the other hand, revenue also has to be equated with costs. So as we increase revenue, the reason revenue increases is because we are deploying more planes, we are flying more, and then you would expect that you would get some economies of scale, which is why people want to grow as well in the business. The question on how that affects pricing, it's a lot dependent on when you fly. For example, if you want to book a ticket over the Diwali weekend, regardless of what my revenue is, you're not going to get a cheap fare, even if you book a year in advance. And that's where I think the beauty of aviation, or beauty for all companies, is you have a dedicated team called revenue management, and the revenue management's role is to ensure that you don't leave money on the table. So if I were selling things much cheaper, it's good for the consumer, but ultimately it doesn't come back to me because I might not be able to make money. Yeah.
Okay, next question. Why don't we go to, I'll go to the students first, ma'am. This gentleman in the third row. Can we get a mic to him, please?
First of all, good morning, Vinod. So my name is Nishkarsh Jain.
Excellent.
My name is Nishkarsh Jain, and we are very happy to have in this ILM campus. So thank you for that. So sir, my first question is, Vistara is a very big name in the airline industries, but where you are working is very unpredictable industries. So sir, what are your strategies to outperform in the market and beats its competitor?
Thanks, Nishka. You started off well and then you called me sir again. But that's okay. I'll ignore that. So yes, it is extremely competitive. In fact, airline business itself is very competitive. So the way in which I look at it, when you look at any business or any organization or any company, do you know the single reason why an organization fails or stops? It's because you run out of money. That's the only reason why businesses, they get bankrupt. So to me, I would answer this in three parts. Number one, you need to have very deep pockets in aviation. So it's not a business for the faint-hearted. Unfortunately, especially in India, you've seen cases of airlines that started and then failed because of various reasons. So we are very thankful in that regard because we've got two great shareholders, the Tata Group as well as Singapore Airlines, which have, I wouldn't say very patient, but patient capital, which are willing to invest and are able to pump in money when they need it to. And thankfully for us, over the last 3 years, we've not needed equity. But it's important that you have someone to back you and ensure that you're not running behind cash flow. So that's number one. The second thing, which is more, that is the finance answer. But the more important thing is, what is the product proposition that you have? When you have a product like what we have, hopefully, for the consumer, and the consumer understands that, look, I'll have to pay a little bit more for a Vistara ticket, but it's a better product, it's better service. Hopefully the flights are more on time compared to some of the others. And most importantly, if something goes wrong, these people will take care of me. So if I'm the consumer, I would pay a little bit more for that. And once you're able to demonstrate that, and once you're able to show to the business and to the world that you're able to achieve that consistently, that's when the trust grows. And when that trust grows, again, I'm not talking as consumers, but as business students, that's when you can charge a premium. And once you start charging that premium, you can cover that cost of what you had put in to make that happen. So it's competitive. If you get the basics right, make sure that you have a product that is well appreciated and you have backing. I think we can still make it happen. That's what we've done.
Thank you so much, sir. So my second question is, the industry is very unpredictable and very uncertain, like COVID. So how did you manage that conditions in the market?
So let me talk a bit about COVID since you brought it up. As I said, it was a very, very tough blow for all airlines. But when we looked at it, there are 2 or 3 things that we were very clear about as the management team. Number one, we said that we do not want to lay off people because that's not something we do. That's the last resort that we had. So instead, what we did was we took a salary cut for most of us, except for the lowest level. The frontline staff didn't have any cuts, but everyone above that, we took deep cuts to ensure we don't have any job losses. That is in order to preserve your human capital. So when you say it's unpredictable, in the Indian context, talent is very tough, especially subject matter expert in aviation. So we said we'll do that. The second thing that we did is we knew that India as an economy and India as an aviation business is going to grow. There is no doubt about it. So we said that, look, even if there's going to be temporary pain for the short term, we will not stop delivery of aircraft. So in fact, we had taken in aircraft. We were one of the few airlines that took in aircraft during the period of COVID. And the third, which I think is the most important, is to be flexible and nimble. So while there was doom and gloom everywhere, it was the first time that you actually had opportunities to fly to places you've never flown before, because the traditional operations from most airlines had stopped. But in India, during that time, we had bubbles and what we call Vande Bharat, if you remember. So we took an opportunity to open 6 or 7 new international stations for the first time, from London to Frankfurt to Paris and so on, which we would never perhaps have done if not for COVID. So we said that, look, while on one side it's a challenge, it's an opportunity. And again, I'm sharing this within these four walls. At those times, the prices that you could command, because people were willing to pay anything to travel, that actually made business sense. So if I could summarize it, yes, it's unpredictable, but if you're nimble, if you're able to pivot to opportunities that are available, and most importantly, taking care of your people, you will come out of it.
Thank you so much for your valuable answer, Vinod.
Thank you.
Last row.
The last row, I have 3 hands up there. Otherwise, we kind of get stuck in the front. I love backbenchers, quite like me. So let's get those people from there. Yeah, you guys will have to stand up though so we can see you. Excellent. Yes, ma'am. Can't hear you. Can we get a better mic to her?
Good morning, sir.
Great.
Yes, great.
My name is Tanishka Rato. I wanted to ask you about the merger. Sir, how is it going to affect the employees who are working with your airlines?
Thanks, Tanishka. I think that's a very good question. And so I can share what is out in the press publicly. What we've said so far is that we will make sure that there's roles for everyone. That's the intent. Over the last few weeks, there have also been newspaper reports that have come out. So as of now, I can say that about 97% of the Vistara staff have all been placed. The remaining 3% I think should as well. So the work is in progress. The thing that works for us in this specific merger is that it's recognized that the Vistara staff are what made the organization what it is, the best airline in the country. So it's a pity if you let go of these staff. So it was not a merger for cost efficiencies, it was a merger for growth. So if you look at the number of aircraft that the integrated entity is going to have, it's going to be almost 3x, which is 3 times compared to what it is today in the next 5 years. So we don't want to let go of people and then recruit them back. So it was a very conscious effort to ensure that the talent that we have, especially, as I said, subject matter experts, we want to retain them and we want to give them, a better career trajectory. So that's how we started this and that's how we are progressing. So I would say with a high level of confidence that everyone should have a role in the new entity, hopefully. That's something we're working towards.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else at the back so we can finish up? Yeah, I'll take one more at the back and then we can come back up front. Yes.
So good morning, my name is Umang and being a marketing student, of course my question will be of marketing domain. I see in the airline industry there are very less media channels that airline use for marketing. So what are the Vistara's marketing strategies and media channels that you follow?
Great. It's not just for airlines. For most businesses, and Anika, you know this better than me, the cost of above-the-line marketing has increased significantly, and there's reasons for it because obviously the world is changing as well, and everything is being consumed in different ways. So I think for most businesses, including for us, we've transitioned a lot to digital programmatic marketing, which is something that's very popular these days. We do a lot of always-on marketing for certain things, but yes, we try and make sure that it's targeted. We try and make sure that it is something that's measurable. And I can say again confidentially, we use the Adobe suite, which has a campaign manager, which has very targeted process to look at what kind of trends people have and how you can target them. So there's a lot of exciting stuff that's happening. I mean, for example, we have cookies that follow you. If, for example, you look for a flight with Vistara, for whatever reason you dropped off, we'll make sure, and sometimes it's annoying, and I say that to my team, but we make sure that we give you that visibility of it. So there are so many things that are happening today which were not there when we started the business maybe 20 years ago. So the way in which we market has changed more from a in your face mass market to something that's extremely targeted, and I think it's going to change even more with AI and everything else that's happening. There's in fact even more potential for us to go down that road. So while you might see that we are not overtly advertising except for a few posters or out-of-home ads, a lot of it is being done below the line in very surreptitious ways, which are actually more effective. Because if I had searched for a Delhi-Bombay ticket and I dropped off because it was too expensive, If I have a cheaper fare, I'll come back to you and say, hey, look, I have something that's 2,000 rupees lesser. Are you interested to buy? And I can bet half the people will say yes. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
So I have a follow-up. It's interesting because Vistara and Singapore Air are both very well known for fantastic service. They're known to be really good airlines. Air India, as much as we love it, doesn't have, sadly, that reputation. When the merger happens, and I'm speaking about marketing and branding, what is that message going to be in terms of brand management?
It's something we're working on right now, Manifa, because at the end of the day, we have a customer base that we don't want to alienate as Vistara, and we want to make sure we transition into Air India. The point that we will be making, and which will be, which will be coming out soon, and again, this is for internal consumption, is that the Vistara planes and the crew and the people are not going anywhere. They are still going to be with Air India. We are trying to work out a mechanism and a timeline where people who book with Vistara will still continue to fly with the Vistara aircraft, although it's under an Air India call sign or a brand as we call it. And then hopefully within the period of time, Air India also comes up to to a much more elevated service standard. And I think, as I keep telling my people, one of the requirements for Air India to come up there is also for the Vistara people to move in, because they can bring in their experience, their SOPs, their procedures, and the way in which they handle things. So that process is happening now, and I would say within the next 6 to 8 months, things should change and improve.
Excellent. Okay, next question. Oh, listen, I can't say no to the Vice Chancellor, right? I work right next to her, our rooms are next to each other, so.
That's a prompting question.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take
can we get a mic to her, please?
I don't let go of a leader on campus. So, it was really good because I think students really listened and asked the questions as well. But searching questions to you is that we talk about leaders who are successful have very high EQ, right? Emotional quotient or emotional intelligence. You're more self-aware. You're better self-managed. You have a lot of understanding, empathy, and at the same time you are forging relationships. So I think if I ask you about your leadership style or your traits or what you have been in your journey, what would that be? And I think that's going to be a lot of learning for our students as well.
Thank you. I think that's something I should have touched on. It is absolutely a vital question to ask. So what I've learned in my limited experience, in fact, after the first 5 to 10 years, we all start off as individual contributors. We say that, look, I'm a particular executive, I'm a person who's part of the machinery, and I'm a small, cog in the wheel. As you move up the corporate ladder, the thing that I realize is that 70 to 80% of your time is spent on HR. And when I say HR, it's not policies, it's people. Because you don't do the work anymore, you get people to do the work. And that's true for any organization. So you hit the nail on the head. In fact, to me, I would say IQ gets you through the door and brings you to a certain level. But to be at that level and to proceed further, your EQ and AQ, which is adversity quotient, is what really matters. So I would say that many of these things are not, there's a debate whether this is innate, whether you're born with these or whether you can inculcate that. I think to a large extent, it is also an influence of the leaders you see. So when I see my managers dealing with situations in a certain way, I take that back and I would probably react in the same way. So my suggestion and my short answer to your question is, be very open and be willing to listen. And when people have various issues, at least at the role that I am in currently, people don't come up to you if it's an easy problem. Because if it's something that is small, something that they can manage, they would have done it themselves. Most of the times, it comes to you because there's no clear answer. It's a gray area, and you need to take that call. And when you need to take that call, you need to be very, very clear and conscious that you are not doing it in a partial way, and you're not doing it in a way that you're hurting anyone. So while it's important to keep the peace, it's very much important to read people as well and push the right buttons. I hope that answers, and it's a wonderful question. I should have addressed it. Thank you.
Okay. We've had a lot of ladies and now to some gentlemen. Come on. There was, this gentleman here with this,
Good morning, Vinod. My name is Rajkumar Thakur. So my question is,
What are your thoughts on automation and its potential impact on workforce? Sorry, I couldn't get that very well. What are your thoughts on automation and its potential impact on workforce? Okay. Impact of automation on workforce. Yes, yeah. I would go beyond automation because now we are in the era of Gen AI and all kinds of things that are replacing. Potentially, what we hear is this going to impact people on the ground? How does it impact people, the frontline staff? So, I think the way we look at it and the way I look at it, I'll give you Vistara as a live example. My staff strength currently is about 6,500 people. We were only about 4,000 about 3 years ago. But we've invested a lot on AI. We've invested a lot on chatbot. We've invested a lot on things that are so-called tools that make your life easier. But no matter what, in a service industry at least, in an industry like an airline, which is a hospitality industry, there is never going to be any replacement for people. Because when something goes wrong, and in an airline that is so high touch point, you still need the people to take care of the problem. You can't have a computer somewhere deciding whether, going back to Manika's question, is the flight going to be delayed by 15 or 45 minutes, and what are you going to do about it? If your baggage is lost, yes, you can have a process for a computer to tell you where exactly the baggage is, but that message has to be conveyed empathetically, which at this time, no tool or automation can do. So especially in a service industry or in a hospitality industry, there's always going to be place for people, but what is going to change is the role that they do. Again, very simply, I take the example of customer service. So in the past, everyone had a call center. And even the simplest of questions like, what is my baggage allowance? Or is my flight on time? Or what should I do what is the price for booking a ticket from Delhi to Bombay? These are things that used to be communicated on the phone or face to face. In the past, there used to be people who used to go to the airline office to ask these questions. That era is gone. Today, all these things can be done on the website, through a chatbot, but what has not happened is that we haven't gotten rid of people. You still need those people because there will be those complicated questions. For example, I didn't get my miles on this trip. For some reason, I used to travel with Vistara and then Lufthansa, but something happened and something went wrong. And these kind of things, which the bot can learn over time, is fine, but you still need the people to convey that message, to say, what is happening? I'm sorry, we will take care of you. And that can only come from a human. So while automation is important, and I completely understand because it's going to make life much easier for all of us, they cannot be a replacement for people. Thank you. Thank you.
So basically, like Tesla's doing driverless cars, even though there's an autopilot, we're still going to have pilots flying planes, right? We're not in the world of AI.
We're not, and I think it's a very controversial topic. So every plane today or every flight has 2 pilots. There's now talk of the EASA, which is the European body, allowing us to fly with just 1, and that has already caused enough of of a controversy, and for good reason, because ultimately, how much can you trust technology? And you need 2 pilots there for a very basic reason. Even if one person is incapacitated, the other person can take over. So when it comes to flight and safety, and if you're an aluminum tube flying 35,000 feet, what is the level of confidence that you have that technology can take you, rather than on the road? So it's still a while away.
Thank God for that. Okay, here, anyone here? There's a lady here in the red, gentleman. Can we get mics? Lots of questions. Yeah.
So good morning, sir. I'm Khushi, and first of all, I would like to welcome you to our campus, IIM University, and I'm so grateful to be a part of this session. So my question to you is that, being a CEO, like you must have explained, how would you define success within the role of CEO? Also, you must have experienced something failure in your life. How would you have overcome out of the same? And also the question, my third question is related to the first and second itself, that you must have taken any critical decision also, how you have overcome out of the same and how you have lead your team accordingly. As we all are doing management, so for us achieving goals and doing success is important. That's why I'm asking this question.
Thank you. 3 short questions, but 3 very tough questions. So the first question on what I attribute as success, or when do I say that I have done well? Actually, when I do an interview for my for my next level, or when we are recruiting people, that's the question I ask them. I say, look, assuming you get this role, assuming you get this job, and it's going to be 1 year down the road, if you look back and say, and look at everything you achieved, what makes you happy? What do you think that, when will you say that you've achieved what you wanted to do? But for myself, I can tell you that the yardstick by what I go, apart from the 3 H's that I said, one, if I can sleep at night. If there are things that keep me awake at night, something is wrong, and though that has happened, definitely. Secondly, when my people are generally happy, so we do organization climate surveys, and we try and get the pulse of the organization. And there are obviously things that go wrong, there are things that we need to change, but definitely the mood of the organization is important. And third, which is important for me as a CEO, more than the financial or equally as important as the financials, is the customer's view. So we have NPS, questionnaires that go out. The NPS score is something that we track. We have the highest NPS score within the country for sure, perhaps even internationally one of the higher ones. So those are all measures and indicators for me. When any of these go down, in fact even today, every week I chair a meeting with the customer engagement team to ensure that the top 3 pain points are addressed and how we can make it easier either through technology or processes or people. So those are things that I would say if I've achieved makes me happy, and that's success for me. And of course, if you ask my wife, she will say if I spend enough time at home. And since she's not here, I can say that I'm more of a person who spends time in the office, and that's something that is important to me. But having said that, personal life is important. I think I was told this by a very senior mentor, and I don't know if I should say this or not, but it's a fact, and I tell people this. You don't owe the company anything, the company doesn't owe you anything. Ultimately, it's you for yourself, so you need to make sure that you are happy, and that's very important. So that is successful. The second question is, how do you deal with failure, or what are situations that have gone wrong? I believe that it's very important, going back to the first point, to be honest. So 2 years ago in 2022, when I took over the role of CEO, we had a situation where there was the 3rd wave of COVID. We went through Omicron, and the situation was that a lot of pilots fell sick, a lot of the customer service staff fell sick. We had to cancel flights overnight. And then there was a lot of backlash because people didn't have enough time to react. As I said, communication is key, and there was a lot of backlash, and we could have done that much better. So I owned up, we said, and my team owned up, we said it's a failure from our side, we will try and do better. So it's important to recognize that you're wrong. Things go wrong, it's how you communicate that things will get better, and that confidence and then delivery. So that's important. And the third point, after having spoken for so much, I can't recall your third question.
Critical decisions and how do you sort of define success?
Okay. As I said before, any decision that comes to me in my current role has probably been debated enough. And the only reason why it's come to me is because there's no clear answer. So let me give you a very simple example. In an airline, a lot of times how you do financially is dependent on how much you fly your aircraft. You have an aircraft that's worth $200 million, and if it sits on the ground, you earn nothing. So you need to make sure that it flies, and it needs to fly a lot in order to make up that money. On the other hand, the more you fly, there's a more chance that your on-time performance is affected, because if your system is optimized to a great extent, you have very little resilience, you have very little buffer. So the smallest issue that goes wrong can affect you very badly. So both sides are right, because the commercial team will come and say, look, I didn't buy an aircraft to make it parked on the ground. On the other hand, the customer service team will come and tell you, but if my punctuality is only 50%, you're going to lose that customer trust. So how do you balance that, and how do you take that call? It's not easy. You listen to both sides, you try and see what's the best middle ground, and ultimately you go with your gut feel. You get it wrong sometimes, but at least there's a decision. The worst decision to make is no decision. So as long as you can make a decision, go with it and course correct, it's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Gentlemen there, yeah. We're going to take the last 2-3 questions. Here.
Manika, we got to accommodate one question back into my
Of course.
Good morning, Vinod. I am Manshu Preti, and my question is, what are the biggest challenges that Vistara faces in meeting international and domestic safety regulations?
Thanks, Manshu. I think the airline business is, it's good and bad. I would say more good, because there are very strict rules and regulations on how you operate. We are governed by the regulator, which is called the DGCA. There are worldwide rules, including the Federal Aviation Authority, the European Authority, and so on. So the good part is that there's a set of rules and guidelines that that need to be followed. Now the challenge is sometimes when the rules and guidelines are written in the Indian context, it may not be as applicable or relevant. So we need to work with the regulator to explain that there are certain changes that need to be made. Like any regulator, and it's nothing wrong, because they are extremely careful, cautious, because ultimately they are also responsible for safety in the country. But you need to work very hard and persistently. Let me give you an example. I'm sure many of you might not know this, but just over the weekend, the DGCA has come up with a ruling that we can use what we call e-tech logs. So what is a tech log? Is basically a journal or a piece of paper where an engineer and a pilot will say, look, these are the things I did with the aircraft. The flight is supposed to take off at 9 a.m. I came in at 8. I checked all the various modules. I checked the fuel temperature. I checked that the fuel is okay. I checked the load, weight, and balance. So there's a log that's maintained in paper. Now, in most countries of the world, that has moved electronically. But in India, again, because of various reasons, it was maintained on paper. So there are various lobbying that we had to do. We had to convince the regulator, prove to them that it's more effective, and finally it was done. So rather than saying what is the challenge, I would say how do you convince and kind of work around the system that we have to ensure that what you do is better for you and for the consumer, and that takes some time. And honestly, in a country like India, where we know that bureaucracy takes time, it's a little bit harder, but in the end, we always succeed.
Ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. A very good morning to all of you. I'm Dr. Hema. I just want to ask one simple question. As Vistara is basically doing the best, already CAGR is 35% and above. So what are the things which you are doing just to satisfy your customer? Your strategy is moving around the price, quality, a lot of dimensions are there as we are teaching to our student, price, quality, flexibility, delivery. So which one you are considering for meeting the requirements of the customer? This is my first question. Second question, there are a lot of constraints are there in the processes. So which one you have seen in your past, past 2 years, which basically hurdled and created a problem just to do the operational excellence in terms of this Vistara Airlines? So these are two questions for you.
Thank you, Dr. Hema. So let me address the first point in terms of what we focus on. Different verticals, different organizations are different. Now, in India's context, in Vistara's context, the fact is, if you look at it from a market share perspective, Vistara's market share is about 9 to 10%. Indigo is the market leader; they've got 60% market share. So if you go to most websites, OTAs or aggregators, you will find a lot more Indigo flights compared to Vistara or any of the others. So the reality is that to a large extent, when you have one player who has 60% market share, the pricing is kind of set by them. Because as much as you can say that you can charge a lot more than Indigo because you're much better, if it's a family of 4 traveling, they can say that, look, by going with Indigo, I can get an additional ticket free because your delta becomes much higher when it's a family of 4. So the point I'm making is pricing is a little bit tougher to control. But what we make very clear, and what is a concerted effort, is that like for like, we are always charging a premium because we believe that we can earn that premium back and we are much better. So pricing is absolutely important. And not just pricing, but revenue management, as I said. Because every seat that we put on the flight which is not sold is perishable. So if you don't sell that, you lost out. So pricing is absolutely key, and based on research in most airlines, when you look at what are the levers for willingness, to purchase things, pricing is number one. It's always the biggest determinant. So absolutely, that's number one. The other aspect, which I spoke about as well, is not just the price, but the product and service. What we bring to the table to make sure that the consumer has this trust in us to say that if something goes wrong, Vistara will take care of us. So what is the premium that you can allocate to that? And the second aspect, or the second question that you asked in terms of constraints or challenges, for the airline business today within India, one of the biggest challenges is people. Whether it's pilots, whether it's engineers, essentially certified staff, because like we spoke on in the previous question, a lot of it is determined and dictated by certification from authorities. So the pipeline and the process to get them in, that takes some time. So we've been trying to work on that. We've been trying to make sure that we have a pipeline for that. And again, the scale that Air India has will definitely assist. You might have read in the papers that they've just set up a huge pilot academy to create this pipeline. So human resources challenge is real. That's a big constraint. That's something that we're working on.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you.
Okay, so very quickly, outside of Tata's, Singapore, Air India, best airline in the world according to you, outside that universe?
the Middle East carriers are great. Qatar does very well because they've got a great product. The other one, which I'm not sure if everyone knows, which is very funky and very fresh, is Air New Zealand. So if you've flown on them, they do the quirkiest things on earth. And of course Virgin, which also has a great marketing spin to it. So these are kind of niche carriers, but they do very well. But mass market, I would say Qatar because of their product.
Okay, I'm going to end it here with one last question. How is airline food going to get better? It's my one big concern.
I would say arguably we have slightly better food compared to the others, but it is a fair point. I'll tell you what the issue is. While we'd like to serve up a whole restaurant up in the sky, there are two things that are important. Number one, galley space. So the aircraft that you have flying around, we'd like to use up most of the space for seats because that's how we make money. And therefore, how much you can carry, and while you want to serve up a 6-course meal, you might not have enough space to store it. So the quantity and the quality is one aspect. The second thing, which some of you may know, some of you may not, is that your taste buds are very different up in the sky compared to on the ground. Because you're in a pressurized chamber and you're up there, what tastes extremely good on the ground is not going to taste very good there. And the other complication for this is we cannot cook because there's no flames allowed in the aircraft. So what we do is it's cooked, it's chilled, and then reheated. And any food that is there, I have to accept, cannot ideally be what you get in a restaurant on the ground. So we try, and we try our best. In fact, there's a lot of work and research that goes in to see what's the best food. For example, it's never easy to get an omelette or a pasta done in the sky because it just doesn't work when you reheat. So we try and see what are the best foods that you can do. But to your question, is it going to get better? Hopefully yes, but it's not so easy.
Okay, thank you so much. Big round of applause. All learned a lot today, and I think the students are going to take so much from what you've said. I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Mary now.
Last question, please.
Yeah. Sure, Dr. Lata.
My name is Lata. My name is Dr. Lata Krishnan. I'm the Dean of School of Management. I just want to know the role of women in Vistara, in leadership positions.
Yeah. So the question, some of you may not have heard, the role of women in Vistara in leadership positions. So let me talk from an overall perspective about, mainly because of our cabin crew, about 40% of our strength is women. The other aspect which comes up quite often is pilots. So the worldwide average women penetration for pilots is about 5%. For Vistara, it's about 11%. So we are double the worldwide average, which is great, and I think it has to go even further. In terms of management, I would say about 15 to 20% of my top 2 levels or 3 levels are women. What I would say unashamedly and undoubtedly, women are much better people managers than men. There is no doubt about it. And I can say this because my first manager is a manager. A lot of what I've learned is from her. And it's just natural because, and I tell this to my wife as well, the amount of multitasking that women do, I can honestly say men can't do. It's not something that is genetically coded in us. So therefore, from a very, very, very high level perspective, women make great managers. It's just to be given that opportunity and to ensure, and again, I can be open about this, women always say they lose out those 2 or 3 years because of maternity, because they leave and then they cannot come back. We try and make sure that doesn't happen. So for cabin crew who go on maternity, we give them ground jobs. We make sure that they do something else that is productive and then they go back to flying. So at the end of the day, where there's a will, there's a way. And I think to a large extent, and I'm not just saying this because you asked me this question, it's important to encourage that, and we try to do that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Vinod Kannan. Thank you, Vinod. And thank you, Manika, as well, for the wonderful session. And thank you, students. You really, I think, you have great more questions, which we can, I think, take up during our sessions, and many of our faculty members can also address on behalf of Vinod. So with this, now I would like to invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Ma'am, Professor Padmakali Banerjee, to honor Vinod. Ma'am. So, students, I think we have a lot to take away from this session. I think the foremost thing that I also learned, you can change the world, and the 3H. And then he talked about IQ, EQ, and AQ. And he talked so much about the operational challenges, the policies, the safety. And I think I'm quite impressed. I think even I have learned a lot from your journey. So I would like to formally thank Vinod. Would also like to thank Anupam sir for bringing him here. I think it was long due. So today we have accomplished that. Would also like to thank all the deans, directors, students, faculty members for assembling here and making it a success. Great thanks go to Professor Banerjee for helping me out, supporting me in the whole execution, and I'm quite honored. And to end this, again, I would like to say leadership series is something wherein we are committed to bringing leaders from industry, so that you get the direct experience from the leaders, direct experience and the expertise from the leaders. So this is going to complement the courses that you study, the certifications that you do. It is going to become an important part of your corporate readiness. So I look forward to more sessions along the lines of leadership series. So students, please do benefit from this. And with that, now I request all to come up to the stage for a group photograph. Please. All the faculties, deans, to join us for a group photograph on the stage.